of the month is when those expanded unemployment benefits expire, as you know, and then the Paycheck Protection Program, which has supported an estimated 51 million jobs here in the country. Many companies have already exhausted the funds that they've gotten for that. I'm wondering, can you reach an agreement before what many strategists are calling an income cliff happens at the end of the month?
Let me comment on both of those. First of all, on the PPP, I've had very productive conversations with Marco Rubio. Both of us are going to have a conversation with Ben Cardin next week. So there is already bipartisan work. I think any extension around the PPP is going to be much, much more targeted to the businesses that really need this money and the smaller businesses. So we're already working on a plan for that. As it relates to the enhanced unemployment, we've been very clear. We knew there was a problem with enhanced unemployment and that certain cases people were paid more than they made in their jobs. That was a technical fix. We were an emergency. We went along with that. We're going to fix that technical fix. We're going to make sure that people are incented to go back to jobs. I've heard stories of where companies are trying to get people back to work and they won't come because of the enhanced unemployment. But we'll fix that and we'll figure out an extension to it that works for companies and works for those people who will still be unemployed.
There's actually a study in the last day that shows that 2/3 of workers that were laid off are now receiving more than their prior earnings because of those expanded benefits. So will the technical fix be a cap on those benefits at 100% of whatever that worker was making before?
You can assume that it'll be no more than 100%. So yes, we want to incent people to go back to work. And even at 100%, if people have jobs, we want them to go back to work. So enhanced unemployment is intended for people who don't have jobs, and particularly industries that are harder to rebound. So we will not be doing it in the same way. And we're in a dramatically different situation. Many businesses are open. Many businesses want to hire more people today.
On the Paycheck Protection Program specifically, we learned a lot about the recipients earlier this week, but we didn't get any information on the vast majority of the number of loans, those below $150,000. Why did Treasury not disclose those? Do you expect all of those loans to be forgiven?
Well, first, let me just say the Treasury very much supports transparency, and we had discussions on a bipartisan basis on all the loans above $150,000. We disclosed them in buckets. And let me just say, as I've said before, loans above $2 million are going to go through a review before they're forgiven. So you shouldn't assume that everybody who has a loan is necessarily going to be completely forgiven. We'll go through those reviews. And as it relates to really small companies of $150,000 or less, we wanted to protect that information because there's payroll information. And we didn't publish everybody who got enhanced unemployment insurance. So it's a very similar situation, but we did provide all the details. So over 4 million loans, people can go in and data mine, and they can see zip codes. They can see lots of information about those small companies that I think is very helpful for transparency.
I'd love to hear where that audit of the loans above $2 million stands and whether you think it's a likely scenario that loans to billionaires like Kanye West or the LA Country Club, where you are a member, will those loans get clawed back? Will you pursue that?
Well, let me just say it would be inappropriate for me to comment on any specific loan at this point. And they're going to go through a review. So I would describe they'll all go through a review. Some of it will be electronic. Some of it will be an audit. Some of it will require information. But the vast majority of these loans were hardworking businesses where the money went to pay employees, and they'll be forgiven. And as we said early on, if there were companies that shouldn't have received the money, we'll deal with that as well.
Mr. Secretary, it's Carl. Just a quick question on tax day, which is coming up next week, of course. I heard you tell David Rubenstein a couple of weeks ago that you had considered whether or not to delay it to September, but obviously in the end you decided not to do that. What was the calculus behind keeping it in July?
Well, I reached out to a lot of different constituents on this issue. It was something I wanted to carefully weigh. First of all of the accountants in the accountant industry, whereas last time they were concerned about getting taxes in, not only did they assure me they could get it done now, but they actually encouraged me. There's about $30 billion of refunds that we still want to get to people. They also wanted to make sure that it didn't get backed up into next tax season, so that was something that was very important. And also, I heard from many of the states, it created tremendous revenue problems for them when we postponed it beforehand. But I just want to assure anybody who has a specific hardship, they can go to IRS.com, they can go online. The IRS will enter into payment plans for people who have specific hardships. So I think we got the right combination here.